Hi, my name is Karolina Sieler, and I am a former law lecturer here in London, as well as the founder of a platform called firstclassllb.com, which is a platform that helps law students just like you to get a first in both their essays and their exams. Today I want to talk to you about good legal writing and give you a few tips that will help you improve your legal writing style in general. I'm just going to crack on with them straight away. So the first tip that I have for you is keep your sentences short. I know this is a tip that you might have heard before, but I want to show you the importance of doing that by giving you a few very interesting examples. So those examples are provided in the article on the website, which is of the same title as the video. I'm going to provide a link to it down below. So you might want to open that article as you're going to be listening to this video, because I'm going to be reading out some of the examples from the site, and you just might find it easier to follow what I'm reading to you. So the reason why it's important to keep your sentences short is, first of all, your reader in general, whether you're writing, let's say, a journal article to be read by academics, or if you're just writing a revision note for yourself, whoever the reader is, the general rule is that they will always follow easier your thread of thought if you use very short sentences. Now, what some students do, and I've noticed this over many years of practicing in the tutoring profession and trying to help students improve their essays, is that they basically think that if their sentences are lengthy enough and seem complicated enough, then this will improve their mark because they are heading in the right direction, because the text is meant to appear complicated. But that's not true, and very often those students actually don't understand fully the sentences that they write themselves. So a good tip to check whether your sentences are long enough, or short enough, or whether they are too long, is once you have written your essay, give it at least a few hours, ideally up to a day, without looking at it, and then read it out loud, slowly, sentence by sentence. Any places where you are actually forcing yourself to stop because you've lost the thread of thought and you don't understand what's happening anymore, and you need to just stop to figure out where you are reading, that's a sign that the sentence is way too long and that you should divide it at least into 2 or 3 sentences. So let me give you an example, which, as I've said, is in the article on the website, so you might want to check this out as well while I'm going to be reading this. Make sure to open it now if you want to do that. I'm going to read an example for you of a sentence which is way too long, and then I'm going to read another example of the same information being separated into 2-3 different sentences, so that you can see how much easier it is to actually follow the trail of thought when the same information is provided in shorter sentences. So let's start with the long sentence. Example 1. The fact that the principle of parliamentary sovereignty, which was originally coined by AVDC, exists in the UK was clearly reflected in Section 4, subsection 6A of the Human Rights Act 1998, specifying that the granting of a declaration of incompatibility with respect to a piece of legislation does not affect the validity, continuing operation, or enforcement of the provision in respect of which it is given. Now, all of that, if you can believe it, was one sentence, and that's not to say that somebody couldn't. It was a well-written sentence in general. So somebody who had a lot of focus at the moment, who was giving it a lot of attention, could read it slowly and could understand it. But if you imagine your lecturer is reading at least a dozen of or dozens of different essays in one go, and so they might lose that attention span at some point. And if they are dealing with sentences like this, they might just write them off and just not absorb the information that is provided in that specific sentence. So an easier way to approach this, and a much better solution, is to divide this specific paragraph into 3 sentences. Let me read those sentences to you. The principle of parliamentary sovereignty was originally coined by AVDC. That's the first sentence. It's as simple as that. You don't need any more information in there. Next sentence. Its existence in the UK was clearly reflected in Section 4, subsection 6A of the Human Rights Act 1998. That's the second sentence. Again, very easy, clear, short sentence, which just gives you the right information. Now, the next sentence. The section specifies that even where the court grants a declaration of incompatibility with respect to a particular provision, this does not affect the validity, continuing operation, or enforcement of that provision. Even though this is a slightly longer sentence, you can easily understand what it is talking about if you have at least the basic knowledge of the Human Rights Act, because it's just short enough and it's just way easier to follow what the author meant to include in this specific paragraph. So this is one way that you can really improve your writing style, your legal writing style, and make sure that it's a good quality writing. Another tip I have for you is don't use words you don't understand. Now, I know it's difficult because at the beginning when you're going through the textbooks on a specific topic, you're probably just really struggling to understand in general what the different keywords that are used throughout the textbook and the chapter. And so you might think that, if I'm just paraphrasing this, if I just take a specific paragraph from a textbook and I just use a dictionary and exchange a few words for different words here and there, that this is gonna just help me to write my essay that way, and I'll just put a reference on it and it's gonna be fine. In reality, when somebody who knows about the topic, just like your lecturer does, is reading what you have paraphrased from the textbook, especially if you didn't understand it yourself, it really comes across, it really shows, and they can really tell that you've literally just paraphrased from the textbook and that you haven't really understood what you're doing. And the reason that they can tell this is because there are certain keywords which, if you read the textbook or if you read different revision notes and revision guides on specific topics and chapters, you will come across those keywords being repeated over and over again. And what happens very often is students who haven't done enough of reading in advance and who haven't prepared enough for writing their essays don't know that these are the keywords, and then just simply try to paraphrase parts of those keywords and phrases by substituting some words with a different word. So one example of that is the principle of parliamentary sovereignty, which is also called the doctrine of parliamentary sovereignty, but it's literally just those two words are used in relation to parliamentary sovereignty. It's usually either a principle or a doctrine. This is what we call parliamentary sovereignty in law. And what could happen often is somebody takes the word principle and they substitute it with a different word, such as assumption or theory or example. And while all of those, none of those are technically wrong, you can still understand what the student is talking about. It just shows that you haven't understood that the parliamentary sovereignty is a legal doctrine or a legal principle. And it just really shows that you were just trying to use any other word just to make sure that you're not committing plagiarism while you're copying the text from the textbook into your essay and just paraphrasing it. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but there's plenty more examples on the article on the website as to how somebody could have paraphrased a text from a journal or a textbook in a really poor way, and then examples of how to do it in a good way. Because it's inevitable. Sometimes you will be paraphrasing from the textbook. Make sure you always provide a reference to the textbook or the journal article. You can't always quote everything. Sometimes you just have to paraphrase, especially if it's from a journal article. But you have to know how to do it the right way so that you're actually using words that you understand, and you know that you are actually using the right types of keywords as well. Now, the last tip I have for you, and this is a very clever tip that can actually really help you, not just to improve your writing style, but to write law essays in general, is to use standard legal academic sentence structures. What I mean by this is there are certain beginnings, endings, and middle of sentences which are used commonly and which you can use and apply in any type of an essay in law on any subject. And if you just have a list of those types of standard legal academic sentence structures, you can easily know kind of how to start your introduction, how to start different paragraphs within the main body of your essay, how to start your conclusion, and then how to link different paragraphs between each other. So what I'm talking about when I'm talking about standard legal academic sentence structures is, for example, a phrase like, the purpose of this essay is to, or as explained earlier in this essay, or in the case of Donahue against Stevenson, the courts did this and that, or decided this and that. All of those sentence structures are sentence structures that are used not just by law students, but also in legal articles. So you can easily review about 20-30 different legal articles and journal articles, and then try to highlight any sentence structures that are repeating themselves. If you don't want to do that, and if you would rather just be given a set of legal academic sentence structures that you can use in your law essays, then make sure you check out my first class law essay writing course that I'll provide a link to down below in this video. Which does provide a section about how to improve your legal writing style in general and how to use those specific legal academic sentence structures in your essay and what they are in general. So that's it from me for today. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel for more similar videos in the future, and make sure you check out my website if you are interested in getting any of my courses or revision notes.